I thought I'd stay in. There's a good titty movie on Skinemax.
And that's how you like to live your life, is it?
Yeah.
Back in '98, I did a low-budget titty comedy for Skinemax, Sex Camp. Remember it?
And you know what's crazy is I know what's happening at my house now. Because one night I heard, yeah! What's he doing? Becoming a man. And I was curious. I'm like, I wonder what he's watching. So I started flipping through my channels, trying to find something that would spark interest. Sure enough, he's watching Cinemax. And I know that's what he's watching. Because out of my TV, I'm getting direct sound, and then I'm getting like a little delayed echo down the hall. You know, so it's like, yeah, oh, yeah. I saw him the next morning. I said, what were you doing last night? I was playing Nintendo. Yeah, whatever. You're playing Wii.
Due to its sultry late-night programming, viewers have given a particular cable network what nickname? HB Orgasm, Independent Filth Channel, Skinemax, Screw Time. Gammy, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I am not that kind of a girl.
Well, actually, I think my parents would be proud to know I have no idea.
Ah.
So I'm going to ask the audience.
No problem. Oh, you think they would definitely know. Audience, Brandon needs your help. 69%. You perverts, you. If you're right.
You guys were all getting together. I'm sure you all planned this. Okay.
And 69 is very much the appropriate amount.
Only on Millionaire, family television. Yeah, well, you seem to know what you're doing. I'm going to go see Skinemax. Final answer.
Gammy, did you think it was Skinemax? Okay, she's not telling, but it is Skinemax.
When it comes to top movies, no one tops us.
Welcome all. We got another lovely YouTuber here. Mike Radich is in the house. If you need anyone to cover late great B-movie icons like LQ Jones or Larry Cohen, he had the Really Random podcast on YouTube. If you want to meet a number one Lone Ranger fan, he's your guy. If you want to just keep up with him on Twitter on all the big MMA fighters, he's your guy. How you been?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we tried to have all kinds of fun topics, and I figured we could go into the B-movie realm and just how marketing has changed, content has changed, even just substance, for lack of a better explanation. And I just figured we could talk about just the hysterical history of all the movie channels. In particular, there is the infamous Skinemax, but it's just, it kind of goes into everything. How there was the HBO world premiere movie. Hey, you don't have to go to the video store yet. There's this exclusive indie film with these has-been actors like James Spader, Lou Diamond Phillips, Ice-T, and we're going to premiere it before, it hits Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. And kind of like how TNT was kind of the mainstream, like we're going to upload, a Blockbuster movie 2 to 5 years after it's come out. modified form, and TBS was kind of the campy sitcom, stupid, low-rated comedy and action movies, and Cinemax was kind of that same deal. And what are some of your earliest memories post 80s, just seeing all the nightmare fuel foreign films, documentaries, and even weird stand-up that they used to carry?
Unafraid, unfiltered, unforgettable. Cinemax Real Life.
I just remember seeing, and this is going to be no pun intended, but I just remember seeing all the random stuff on there.
It's like, what is this?
We
is
have
this
stand-up,
real?
1 minute we have sports, 1 minute we have a movie, 1 minute we've had movies that are made specifically for that channel.
For late night,
I just remember like the randomness of all of it, and I was very intrigued by that. I was like, this is pretty cool that you can just go from everything. Because remember, there were certain channels or certain companies, however you want to put it, who were specific in one area. Then when you see people who are doing everything, you're like, well, why can't we just do that? Let's just do everything.
Yeah. I had bootleg cable back in the day, and it was just so funny how I would be switching between Cartoon Network, there's a Time Warner connection, and then this, and it was just so funny. It was kind of the go-to on Friday, and if you didn't have that, then you had something just wacky, like even Sci-Fi Channel or USA Network or just any other network. But it was, like you say, it's just like anything not on parent channel HBO were airing, and sometimes they'd be the first one, and then you'd see Showtime try to carry some of the same mustard, and you're like, no.
There's no better time for movies than Max Time. 10 o'clock every night of the week. Catch a hit movie on Cinemax. Here's what's on Max Time in January. The best movies. The most movies. And now there's a great movie at 10 every single night. Set your watch to Max Time. A great movie at 10 every night. Only on Cinemax.
It just doesn't have the same rhythm. But the funny memory for me is, and you've interviewed some of these starlets, it's hysterical how some of those actors is like, you'd see the just downright like handsome built guy, and next thing you know, you see him in some stupid B-movie martial arts film or one of those Full Moon Charles Band's monster movies. And then other times I'd see him like just on anything, like as a random Marine accused of murder on an NCIS episode. Same thing with the starlets, is like you'd look at their resume, is like one episode is a gorgeous alien babe on Star Trek, a few USA Network shows, and Sci-Fi Channel creature feature. You're just like, what a weird resume, but they had no shame in it. And I see that a lot of people say they discontinued this kind of off-color content by 2016. I recall it going until 2018. That's when I recall they finally pulled the plug and said, we can't keep up with the internet, we can't keep up with video on demand, and we legit want to be airing some better TV shows like Banshee and Strike Back, just action shows, not any of this other off-color stuff. But it's so funny how HBO would always pretend to be we're the more classier one, but then you'd see off-color stuff on, Sopranos, Oz, and even documentary shows like Real Sex, and you're just like, I thought you were the classier one.
Right.
What changed?
And you bring up a great point, because that's really what kind of killed Skinemax was. Look at the content that they're putting out. Just these are regular shows. These regular shows are so
even before Game of Thrones
heavy that there's no need for that anymore. It's crazy. So it's like, we're trying to be the classier brand, yet we're putting on stuff that really kind of resembles what we claim we don't like, which I always thought was quite interesting.
Absolutely, dude. We just did a special on Howard Stern, same kind of deal, where it's just like, we hate your content, but secretly we love it because it's a ratings hit. So it's just like, so I just can't win. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. You kind of got those with those Stephen Bochco shows. LA Law and NYPD Blue were really risque, and those were on network TV. So Buffy, I remember, I think got fined by the FCC, and then the FCC kind of screwed off after a while. They're like, no, we're good. we're not going to complain anymore because no one. It turns out the Parents' Council doesn't really care.
The following movie is rated R.
Yeah, yeah. The whole shift just went completely that way, where, you know, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, the Skinemax type movies were, you know, a lot of people out there consider them porn. I don't. I consider them kind of in the comedy realm. I watch those and laugh. I think it's comedy. I don't watch those and think of them as anything more than just a fun little thing. I know I'm in the minority of that, but I just think they're a funny little.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
I don't find them anything, you know, like
terrible.
I just think that it is what it is.
They were B movies. I mean,
it's just a B movie. It's something like that. But people get really caught up in it. They go, oh, this is, you know, really important. And if you talk to a lot of the actors and actresses who appeared in these movies and you ask them, hey, is this porn? They go, no. Like, what are you talking about? No. Now, of course, there was a crossover where they would have adult actors and actresses in them, but they did have their own stable of regular actresses who would appear on Star Trek, would appear in a show like Silk Stockings.
Exactly.
In a movie, a B movie, or a mainstream movie, in, like, you know, the third pirate from the left, you know, the third pirate, the waitress, the you know,
even some stunt people you'd see on there. You look at their resume, you know, Transformers 1 through 5, you know, and then coordinator on every other Andrew Stevens Night Eyes movie. You're like, oh, there is some crossover. But like you say, for the most part, I mean, there's a reason they called it Action Max or Filler Max.
When you want killer flicks that never quit, hit Saturday nights at 11:30 for Marshall Max. With so much hands-on combat, it's the ultimate fight club. Do you follow what I'm saying? Mix John Woo action with Japanese anime.
For the most part, they were just American Pie or Revenge of the Nerds type sex comedies, and then they would do let's have the sleazy private eye movie, you know, protecting a starlet from a serial killer. And they hired the adult film stars because this was before every crew was required to have a intimacy coordinator. Is like, well, they're comfortable with this kind of programming, and in a way they're freed up from those kind of contracts. They'd rather be a Roger Corman babe as opposed to a, you know, adult video store babe, you know. But very, very true. There is a huge ass difference. You know, there would be some plot, there might be a loose one, but at the same time, you know, for the most part, they would be just a stupid parody of like Indiana Jones or Escape from New York, and and for the most part, even if there was like maybe 10 minutes of a plot and mostly sex, it was still, like you say, it was funny. Like half the time you'd see the guy wearing a sock or the gal just having an off-color line of dialogue, and just the self-awareness, I think, is what really made it fun. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like you say, will just look at that and be like, oh my God. And it's like, well, if you don't want to go to the video store, you can wait till after 10 o'clock and it'll be on here in the privacy of your own home. And some of those babes have gone on to do a lot of other cool stuff. Jackie Holland, I think, is now a screen queen. Some of them were, you know, you would often see it like at an award show, like on Spike TV, or be a cute groupie in like a bunch of heavy metal music videos, and so, or video games. So
absolutely.
It's always funny when you encounter someone who you can tell is watching that same kind of programming, and they just look at you like, hey, someone gets it.
It was interesting because I would always see them in these movies and then look them up on IMDb and then see them in a mainstream type movie and always be very interested in seeing them perform just a regular role. And I was always interested in that. I always thought, like, you know, that really is what sets it apart from what people think it is to what it actually is because these people are just doing an acting job. Yes, there's nudity. Yes, there's the simulated sex,
lowbrow, but
it's just an acting job, and that's all it is. I mean, people make it out to be way more than it actually is, and I always thought that was interesting that these people just looked at it. Hey, this is just an acting job. I'm an actress or actor, whatever, and I'm just doing this. No different than you see some of these movies that they're making now, where, you know, it is a more serious version of a softcore movie, really. If you want,
it really is. And it's like people don't want to learn from history. It's kind of like when people complain. I'm sure you get this when you do research on, Tonto and the Lone Ranger. You see a mixture of snobbiness, political correctness, and then just even other stuff where it's like when people complained about or praised, for lack of a better word, 50 Shades of Grey. I was like, well, but this is just a regurgitation of that erotic drama from the 80s and 90s that Adrian Lynn kind of pioneered. And you don't have to like it, but it's what it is. It's kind of like when there's a new Buddy. I mean, all these other homage action blockbusters like Now You See Me or Olympus Has Fallen is like those are regurgitating all the other Ocean's 11, Die Hard, and I mean even the Expendables are a good example. Just all the earlier blockbusters that were a thing, and people like to kind of just forget or not compare one or another. I'm like, it's not that far afield, guys. It's but like you say, I mean, when you interviewed Christine Yin, she's the same kind of gal where she's done all kinds of movies and productions, and she's wisely kind of just stopped talking about it because she realizes, her husband doesn't understand it, other people don't understand it, and it's like, yeah, I'm just not going to waste my time with you. You're not going to listen anyway.
Right. And it's kind of weird because I always thought a lot of the starlets who appeared in those Skinemax movies could have been way bigger stars, like real stars. Like I see some of the women that they put in some of these movies and TV shows, and I'm just like, I don't see a difference. I think that these people that I talk about and have watched for many, many years could do the same job.
There's adult film stars on The Sopranos and Game of Thrones, and no one bats an eye. I'm like, well, it made sense. There's some adult situations on those movies or on those shows. So, but yeah, it's like it's a popularity contest almost. And yeah, I don't know why some of their careers didn't take off as much if people are picky, because I knew some people who used to do internships at different LA studios, and they would notice that some of those adult studios would even be having casting calls like a few lots over at Universal and even Fox. They'd be renting it out. So, I mean, and when you saw like a Joel Silver movie, you could even tell who was watching what, like whether it was. I saw so many B movie actors on Tales from the Crypt as much as there were, famous people, So, yeah, I don't know how the cookie crumbles nowadays. I know Jim Wynorski and Fred Olen Ray, who've done all those off-color movies, in addition to Roger Corman stuff, are now working for Charles Band at his Full Moon thing. But so I think that's the closest you're going to get as a throwback to that kind of off-color B movie fun. Yeah, I mean, some of them are really fun and, like you say, interactive on social media. I know Cindy Lucas is really hysterical, and yeah, like you say, I don't understand why there has to be a prejudice. I mean, let people watch what they watch. I mean, I would see half these actors in now. I've seen them kind of switch it up. Amin Joseph was kind of one of those guys. I saw him on some of those Zane Sex Chronicles, and he's gone on to be on Justified and a few other things. The shows were kind of fun, but compared to Showtime, which was kind of just all over the place, just a bizarre anthology. I mean, Best Sex Ever, Erotic Confessions, all those other just wacky erotic traveler type shows. Those were just kind of just campy, again, late night fun. And you're just like, hey,
they're just so much fun. I can't look away. I love them. I do.
Yeah.
But I watch them for a different reason than people think. I watch them because they are fun. Like I don't make them out to be anything more than what they are.
People are in denial. Also,
what does it matter? It's just, it is what it is.
The camera work's also not
even when they try to make it serious, it's still funny for me.
That's
even
true
the
too.
dramatic ones that they made, I still find myself laughing because the situations they get into are so unrealistic. I have no choice but to laugh.
Absolutely. And it kind of even reminds you of, I mean, just like when you're watching Mystery Science Theater, what is a good movie and what is a bad movie? What's a so bad it's good movie? What's a trashy fun movie? It's because, like you say, you could easily make an argument about even a hospital or mystery show that's on primetime TV. They all have to follow a formula, and regardless of whether you buy it or not, they just have to make it entertaining. So yeah, to your point, I mean, I would even see some of those cinematographers, and they'd gone places because they did a good job making that engaging.
I mean, they look great. The shows all look great. I mean, of course, they're made on a limited budget, but for what they are, they look great.
Oh, totally, dude. There was one of their final shows they did. It was kind of Cinemax's answer to Real Sex.
If you haven't been getting enough sex lately, real sex that is, then get ready for the ultimate fantasy. The best of 12 shows, the cream of the crop from the Real Sex series. If it was good for you the first time, just wait till we do it again. It's coming. The best of Real Sex. It's the best sex you've ever had. Premieres Saturday, October 7th on HBO.
It was called Skin to the Max. So see what they did there. It was kind of a play on of their word. And you could tell, okay, some of these people are actually models, and they're going to real places to supposedly get laid, but you can tell it's all staged.
Yeah,
you're not seeing
for sure
reaction shots, so to speak. But it was always just funny just how they tried that at first, and at some points it looks like they're actually fucking. So that might have been for an international version. I'm not sure what happened there, but
they did a great job. They did a great job.
they made it stick. No pun intended.
Yeah, right. It's just, it's very sad. I mean, the whole world has changed, really. I mean, everything top to bottom, everything's changed. But it's really sad that those shows went away. But what I've been asking around to certain people who have worked on those productions, and they've all come to the same conclusion of, look, the internet. Yeah, pun intended.
But yeah, I know what you mean. The guy
they've all come to the same conclusion. The internet, you can find whatever you want on the internet, and these things look tame compared to anything that you'll find on the internet. So there's no need for this anymore. Then there's the whole thing about, well, there's a lot of people who don't like it because of what it is. Well, this isn't real. This is simulated, so I don't want that. Then there's people who just won't watch it ever, regardless. Like, this is really not my thing. I'm not into it. So when you add up all those people in those three groups, there's really no market for it anymore.
Absolutely. I tried interviewing Robert C. Lombard.
Yeah, the casting director.
We cast a lot of them, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm only going to spill the beans if you pay me like $5 million." I'm like, "No, thanks." But it's funny how I would see that mainline releasing logo, and then you looked at other stuff they'd done. They would do even kids movies and serial killer slashers. So but to your earlier point, some of those companies that were all about, wherever the cookie crumbled, it's just like, well, we'll try this, we'll try that out, we'll do half and half.
Yeah, it's just so sad because I love all those shows. I really was into the shows. The movies, they were fine too, but it was really the shows that really stuck with me, especially the ones that
would look forward to
2005 to 2010, that sweet spot. Those were the shows that I really enjoyed.
And there would be a reason for it to be that sleazy. It was kind of, in a way, almost unintentional commentaries. Like, let's have a sex therapist. Hey, let's have a photographer who's got very busty models who they're both giving each other the "I like you" eye. And it was just like, so harmless fun, nothing creepy about it, nothing scandalous. It's like, it's silly. I mean, there was one which was kind of a Blade Runner kind of show for pen and science. It's like, okay, so it's going to be by a Star Wars art director, and it's going to have sex, and it's also going to be a Blade Runner Matrix mystery. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Just all in good fun. So much fun.
And if you missed it, it'll repeat, 2 hours from now.
Yeah. And I mean, they were on loop all the time. Like you could find the same show or same movie over and over and over again. And that's really how I got interested in seeing all these, is because I would see them all the time. I mean, I wouldn't watch them from start to finish always, but you would see the first 10 minutes, and then you'd come back 4 or 5 hours later and you'd see the middle of the movie. And then
even if you had a DVR, you would often be so invested in it, and you're like, I'm not going to even press the clicker. I'm just watching.
Yeah. I would always try to watch everything they made at least once, and then I would keep revisiting the ones that I liked. I would always give the movie or TV show at least one, depending on what it was. If it was a movie, one watch. If it was a show, maybe 2 or 3 episodes.
There you go.
I make a decision if I'm going to continue to watch this or not.
Totally. It's even more surprising how many companies let their content be premiered on there. It's just Lionsgate, Sony, Prism, and there are a few other ones, but yeah, some of those companies are still around. They're making all kinds of still kind of off the wall, kind of edgy content, but like you say, kind of the mystery, the essence of it is kind of a little missing there. But yeah, the shows were always fun because you couldn't get them anywhere, and if they were released on like VHS or DVD, it was obviously an edited compilation, so that took out the fun because you watered down. So you're like, eh. But
sometimes I took out the fun. Sometimes I would do it the opposite way. I would do it the regular way sometimes, and then other times I would watch it like without the good parts.
Oh, there you go.
I'm telling you, I'm weird like that. I
actually
enjoyed this stuff for what it is. I enjoyed it all the way around.
I do it a few occasions. It's it's good if you still want to watch it before you get to the naughty bits. It's just like when you watch an action movies, where is it good with before you get to the 5 car chases and fight scenes? Okay, cool. But then there's other times where you're like, this is not good because it's a chore getting to the so-called content.
Right. Right. I find myself doing that now more than ever because there's so many options out there.
It really is.
Back, 10, 15 years ago, you would just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to watch this. Now you have all these streaming services, all these TV channels.
Oh, absolutely.
The internet, you have unlimited options, YouTube, all this stuff. You don't have time to waste on bad stuff or stuff that you don't like.
Absolutely.
And there's multiple problems within that because then you won't try stuff new. And that's a lot of stuff that we're seeing now where, well, I'm not going to test out this new show or new movie because I already like the stuff that I like. So why wouldn't I just keep watching the stuff that's been proven to me to be good?
Bingo.
And I can understand that, but also I think that that's going to be a big problem.
Oh, it already is.
But sooner rather than later.
I was fortunate enough to talk to some guys who had started off doing some vampire indie action films and everything. And some of them one of them went on to do makeup effects on other blockbusters like I Am Legend, and he's worked on even SVU and the Power TV show.
Oh,
and,
really?
and I told him Power is probably as close as you get to like an 80s kind of action crime exploitation kind of Death Wish film.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of edgy sex content on that also, but it's awesome because you don't have to wait for it, and it is actually part of the plot, and the plot's so dense. You're like, I'm willing to accept anything you guys throw at me. But like you say, there are other ones where it's like the trailer was so cool. Lo and behold, the interesting part didn't happen until episode 5, but you already bailed after, episode 2. So like you say, I think we are now at a point we value our time actually now. And if it just doesn't land, it doesn't matter how many people tell you should watch it. It's like, well, but I have to wait. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, I find that to be a big problem because there's a lot of stuff from the past that I would have never found or been interested in had I been living the way we're living now. And that's because there's a whole generation of people who are growing up in this marketplace where you don't have time to be going through all this stuff, where the guys of our age range, we just would go on TV and turn the TV on. If there was something random on TV that we thought was cool, we're watching. Now everyone it doesn't even have that option, really. They're just picking out what they want.
Absolutely, dude.
Predetermining what they're watching before they even turn their TV on, which is sad in a way.
It really is. But Lord help us. Can you imagine the whole what if game? Oh, what if I never discovered this? What if I never saw this movie franchise? But same kind of deal. We would people are forgetting the time where it's like you didn't have that option. You had either the rewind or eject button,
right,
or the record on the VCR, or when you got to DVR, same kind of deal. It's like you'll watch it, but you might delete it soon because you're going to run out of space. Unless you have
the trailers. The trailers is what really gets me, because now you just go on the internet and you find them. back in the day, you had to go to the actual movie theater to see what was coming. And I remember seeing a bunch of trailers for a lot of movies that I really loved. Maybe not the trailer that much. I maybe don't really remember the trailer, but I remember seeing that there was a movie about like Batman Begins or The Dark Knight.
Oh, there
like
you go.
Seeing those trailers in the theater and knowing this movie was coming was very, very exciting to me. And not knowing before even walking into the theater that I could see a trailer about this character or these movies, whatever, was the exciting part. Now, you'll find on social media, hey, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever, we're dropping the first trailer. So you already know that it's coming and you know that they're making this movie and you're already kind of just sucked in before that you even like it ruins the surprise. You already know that the thing's coming before you see what the trailer is. And that's really a sad thing that we don't have that anymore. That surprise, that, oh my God, I can't believe this is coming, or I can't believe they're making this, or even movies that you're not anticipating. There were some movies like The Hangover where you just saw the trailer and you're like, this is interesting. I didn't know anything about any of the actors, didn't know anything about
who are these guys?
Didn't know anything about anything of this movie. I didn't know it was being made. Nothing. See that trailer, I'm gonna go see this now. Now
absolutely.
you're just going off of
Hype.
social media and really you don't have much to go off of, because you'll find everyone either is in the camp of I love this or I hate this. So it just depends on where you see. If you see all the people who hate it, you're going to hate it too. If you see all the people who love it, you might give it a shot. It's a weird world.
And they don't seem to be learning from the trailer. Because you say, there was a time, I think you're right. I think Batman Begins and the Star Trek reboot kind of started it. And then Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele kind of did the whole, even Denis Villeneuve to a point with his Dune, just show very little and somehow get people very anticipated and riled up, and they're going to see it opening day even if they think it sucks. Just those guys have mastered it. But then there's all these other ones where it's just very hectic, annoying music video edits with loud music playing, and gone is kind of the whole I gotcha or a fun Don LaFontaine setup. I mean, there is a return to kind of the adult filler, kind of like a la Time to Kill or Presumed Innocent kind of movies coming out. I think Oppenheimer is the best example, whether you like it or hate it. But then there's other ones, like you say, you're still missing that kind of interactivity. Because, I mean, after the Sonic the Hedgehog scandal, it just seemed like studios aren't even looking at their trailers. They're just kind of letting marketing run loose and then wondering why they're not getting a return. I'm like, well, did you see your trailer for your product? It's not advertising the actual product.
One thing I wish they would bring back is the voiceover.
Yeah.
The trailer voiceover. I want to hear a voice. I want to hear someone tell me a story. I don't like how it's all these little clips and just the actors who are in the movie talking. I want to hear the voiceover. I can remember the entire trailer for the movie
How Douglas was one
with Chuck Norris. I can remember the entire trailer word for word, the voiceover guy for that movie. Like, it's stuff like that. I can remember weird lines.
Hell, you're a Lone Ranger fan. That was missing from even the Lone Ranger trailer. There was no sense of a return to the serials of the 40s and 50s, and it just seems like you say, it's just you wish it was a return to that. I don't know why they don't want to return to that. It really there's one cool guy called Ashton Smith. You'll hear his voiceovers on, the closest you'll get is like a Lionsgate movie. Starring someone like Frank Grillo or Liam Neeson or Bruce Willis. But I would hear his voices on like The Last Ship coming to TNT or Next Up on CNN. But like that's you probably have heard his voiceovers in like War with Jason Statham.
I'm sure I have. Yeah.
But that's as close as you get. But the other ones just seem to just kind of linger here and there. I mean, if they're not going to do that, at least maybe do something kind of like Star Wars, to like make it a comprehensible, show me all the like 5 different battles that are going to be fighting and make it epic. But I don't even see that. Now it's just kind of too much. Where, like you say, social media will make or break a movie. I'll see people bitching about how fake the CGI that's unfinished is. And I'm like, well, even if it's a good movie, your movie's kind of not going to make any money now that you got all those nitpickers.
Yeah. Two things. One, the 1981 movie, The Legend of the Lone Ranger, that trailer, that movie, they had Fred Foy do the trailer, and he was the radio announcer on the radio show back in the 40s and 50s. And they brought him back.
That's so true.
Trailer. And he was supposed to be the mayor of Del Rio, which was the town where that movie took place in, but his scene ended up getting cut. And they had him do the voiceover in the trailer. And I can remember all the dialogue in that trailer. And also, I see you're wearing a Raiders of the Lost Ark shirt. And that in that trailer, they have a voiceover guy. And I always remember, and I do a horrible impression. And I'll do it for you now. I know you're going to ask me to do it, but I do a horrible impression of it. But I always remember it when he goes, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a film from Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. That's how he talks.
Oh man, perfect.
But I remember that, and it's a voiceover, and that trailer just sticks in my mind because of the voice. And now that isn't even something that they're even interested in doing, even as a throwback.
Yeah.
Even some of these movies that are trying to tap into nostalgia, they don't even do that.
I don't know why. Yeah. There is a good connection to Raiders and Legend of the Lone Ranger. I'm a huge fan of Terry Leonard, who did all those death-defying stunts, including the Raiders car chase. He's done everything from the train jump in The Fugitive and Death Before Dishonor with what's his name from Hunter. But yeah, same kind of deal. It's like I feel like there's even a missing component. Like John Wick's kind of the closest you get to people wanting to know how awesome stunts and makeup and set design is done, but you still see other people where you're like, hey, these guys have been around for a while. You should really follow them. They're amazing. But yeah, even the mispronunciation in the trailers, that was a hoot sometimes because there was something kind of, I don't know, kind of compelling.
Yeah.
Didn't really work, but it was kind of fun.
That stunt that you mentioned, it was in The Legend of the Lone Ranger.
Yes.
The guy got trampled by the horses.
So bad.
Came back later, perfected it for Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then recently I was watching a full breakdown of Yakima Canutt, who first did that stunt. He did it in my favorite serial. Well, he first did it in Stagecoach with John Wayne, but then he actually perfected it where it was jaw-dropping in my favorite all-time movie serial, Zorro's Fighting Legion. Just amazing. And that's something that's also been lost too because of CGI. Now they can make that stunt work no problem.
Right.
Get trampled, nothing would be. They just do it however they do CGI, and away we go. But it looks so much better when you see a guy really do it. It's incredible.
No kidding. Yeah. And I feel like everyone's also just willfully just forgetting about all the safety. Is like, it can still happen. I don't know why we have to forget all the previous stuff. Because like you say, people are tired of just stuff that just doesn't look very convincing.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with the CGI fest, I mean, it's gotten out of hand. Like everything is CGI. Romantic comedies are CGI now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
They're not really on top of the
everyone's doing something that's got some sort of special effects or something in it now. And I was talking to someone about Star Wars the other day, and how, Star Wars is not as popular as it once was. Sure, amongst a certain age group, very, very popular, but there are people who have started to check out, especially with this last movie trilogy not being very good. People who saw Star Wars back in the 70s were completely shocked by what they were seeing because they hadn't seen it before. Now, everything that we're seeing, we've seen before in a way. So Star Wars doesn't have that same connection with people based off of that alone. So you would have to really crank up the storytelling of the movie and have really good actors and a really good plot to make that movie work. And unfortunately, when you mix in the CGI and people kind of being desensitized to that, and then you mix in the plot and the characters not being very strong, the whole thing goes down. And the person kind of fought me a little bit, but then eventually I was able to sell them, and they're like, you know what, you do make a pretty good point about how the special effects back in those days, we were seeing stuff, you know, George Lucas didn't invent that stuff. He invented the technology to make that stuff. And now everyone's continuously using that over and over again.
I mean, look at Hal Needham.
We didn't just do this stuff for our health. You know, we had to go out and make the technology to make that. Now people are making technology and wondering what to do with it. They knew what they wanted to do with it. They just had to create it to make it work.
I feel like effects creators are almost as bad as showrunners of a TV show. They have a cool concept and a cool idea, but they don't know how to make it last a whole season, a whole year. And same kind of deal here. You're seeing all these people, they want a franchise, but they're not realizing whether the story is strong enough or how to accomplish these effects and make them serve the story. But just because they mastered it doesn't mean they had to keep on. Lucas, it seems pretty clear he could have just stayed behind the scenes. And I mean, Blu-rays kind of ruined it also in a way to where we're now seeing mistakes that we didn't see, 40 years ago. But no, that is totally true. It seems like so many people are just like, oh, you can't talk anything about Star Wars. It's like, well, this is just an overall constructive critique, because there's plenty that it created and there's plenty that it took away from. And, don't get us started on all the endless, rip-offs and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look at Hal Needham. He made a career doing wacky car chase movies with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the script always came last.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's not what you were there for. But like you say, it does also get annoying having to explain that to different people. I see people who are snobs at action movies now, and they'll be perfectly fine. Like, they won't have too much CGI. They'll just be simple car chases and everything. But they'll be so picky about the plot, but they'll be okay with it if it's in like a John Wick or Fast and Furious movie. I'm like, well, hold on, what's the difference? And they can't tell you the difference. It's kind of, you want to even get into horror. It's amazing how some of them just assume, oh, I don't like horror. I'm like, I don't do torture, but I'll do a Omen or Hellraiser type of movie. But it seems like so many people, again, they can't explain why they like things. They just seem to think, oh, you're just Killjoy. I'm like, or maybe I see the inherent issues, because to your earlier point, when you complain about a movie, it seems like you'll get plenty of feedback that people, like, now that it's on home video and they've re-seen it, or they've seen it after all the hype has died down, they're like, hey, what was that all about? And it's like, well, I think you let the internet kind of pick this for you. You kind of just went with the flow. It's kind of like you got pressured into going to this party that you didn't really want to go to in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wish there was, again, like you say, I just wish there was more monitoring on the CGI. I mean, Antoine Fuqua seems to kind of do what Walter Hill does nowadays. Is like, okay, there's going to be a CGI bullet head, but there's still going to be a blank hitting you.
Mm-hmm.
Just a half and half at least. Give me most of a win as opposed to an epic fail that just doesn't look convincing at all.
I think a lot of people have a problem with when it gets over the top. Like, if you have to do something that is very dangerous and you don't want someone to get injured or whatever, or the star has to be, like, the face has to be seen in order for it to work, and they can't actually do that. Okay, we can do CGI for that. But when it becomes, instead of 4 buildings being blown up, 400 buildings need to be blown up. Instead of a 2 or 3 car pile up, we need a 35 car pile up. Like, when it gets to be so extreme like that, then that's when people really have a problem with it, because then it just looks like a cartoon.
Absolutely. I think tone and mood those are 2 different things, and they always seem to go out the door. Like, I think I saw Hobbs and Shaw, and there was like a 3rd and 4th and 5th unit credited on that movie. I'm like, I've never seen those. I've seen a 2nd unit, a 3rd unit for Hawaii. Jesus.
Right.
And
I really don't know why they keep doing all these reshoots over and over and over again. Let's just make
too
the
much
movie. The audience
ego.
likes it. Let's just go with how it is.
And they
The
have
whole
no
thing about we
excuse.
need to do 15 reshoots. We need to we need to redub this actor. We need to recast this part. The whole thing, just whatever. They've taken all the control away from the directors. Really, when you get to a certain level at certain studios, really the director isn't even directing the movie anymore. It's being made by the marketing department, the head of the studio, this person, that person, all these different people are touching it. The director, his vision is completely being lost. And, a movie like a Star Wars or Indiana Jones, those movies would have never been any good, or probably would have never been made if the people who made them didn't make them. Like if Star Wars was made by the publicity department or marketing department at 20th Century Fox, the movie would have never made it or ever been any good.
No, absolutely. A movie, there's so many films that do not exist without one or the other. There's so many that, even just a shot from like The Seventh Seal or Citizen Kane. But yeah, there are other ones like this where, Tarantino will talk about all the exploitation and tasteless movies he's inspired by. And so people will check them out and they'll be like, oh, it's a piece of shit. I'm like, well, hey, it's the reason you have Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. That guy's awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah.
I like the guy more than I like the movies, actually. And I think his movies are great, but I like him.
That's a good point,
He loves movies. It's
do you ever watch
you can't fake that kind of passion.
No, you can't. Do you ever watch Joe Dante's Trailers from Hell?
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good kind of resurgent. Like there's a guy who, should be bigger, but he has already had a pretty solid career, and he knew when to just finally say, you know what, I'm not doing studio compromises anymore. I'm going to do my own thing, and you know where to find me if you need me.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of indie movies recently that I still don't know why major production companies, major studios aren't making them. Like I go on Tubi and I just watch. I'll find stars that I like and just, go down. All right, here's an indie movie they made 5 years ago. And I'm like, why am I watching this mainstream stuff at the theater when this stuff is so much better? And why hasn't anyone gotten a clue on this stuff is better? Let's make more of this and less of the stuff that we're losing millions and millions of dollars on.
Thank you so much for saying that. Because, if anything, they pretty much took up Prime's deal of have all kinds of movies, let people choose. Let's do our own original movies. So here's some, ghetto, crime films and stalker films for like the Lifetime or urban gangster crowd. Let's do a cool home invasion or supernatural terror movie. Let's have an original action movie or a zombie film. Yeah. And they'll get some name talent every once in a while. And you feel perfectly fine watching those originals as much as you do. I have found so many movies that I always meant to see that were on TV or at the video store, but I just could never get my hands on that are on there now. If you want, you can watch even an awesome action show that still delivers, like Highlander or Buck Rogers. Just go for it. You won't be let down. But yeah, then they have kind of just figured out the comfort viewing that we were talking about earlier. That is just you want to be able to unwind after working in the mechanic shop or doing, office work all day, and like you say, it is better than buying for a $20 ticket to go see an unfinished movie that's already being torn apart by the Razzies.
Yeah.
And I get shit all the time. Trust me. When people were doing the whole Barbie and Oppenheimer and Sound of Freedom argument, I was like, you could not pay me to watch any of these movies. It doesn't click. I would rather watch the movies. Like, instead of a Nolan movie, I'd rather watch Lawrence of Arabia for the billionth time, one of those other epics by an English filmmaker. And instead of Barbie, how about we watch, I don't know, Transformers? a toy commercial that's self-aware. Sound of Freedom. How about I just watch Taken or Death Wish again? I don't know.
I like stuff that has magic. I don't know. I can't really describe what I mean by magic, but you know it when you see it. And
I totally know what you mean.
Yes, those Marvel movies, they make a bunch of money and they're great in bits and pieces, but for some reason they lack that magic. And Barbie lacks that magic.
I'm with you.
A lot of these movies that are very popular lack that magic. And I don't know what it is about these movies that just doesn't.
I think I know why.
It's
not
the
clicking. Homages. There's too forced most of the time. Like Shang-Chi has a moment that's a total tribute to Speed. And I kid you not, while I'm watching the beginning, I'm like, this is fun, but it's not great. But I'd rather kind of pause this and go and rewatch Speed for the billionth time. I think because they were reminding us of the superior stuff from before, it kind of makes us slow down and have to try. Like when you saw a movie that was just junky, it had a sense of fun that you were able to turn your brain off. Now I find that we have to try too hard to turn our brain off because, again, like you say, there's too many reshoots, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, there's too many people that kind of want this to be so many things, and you're like, I'm getting confused here.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. You said it perfectly. There's a lot of people who want to make one thing a million different things, and they also want to make a movie or TV show for everyone, when if you
can't make everyone happy,
you make it for no one.
It really is.
That's what happens over and over again. Let's get every person in the world interested in our show, when it's a proven fact that even the most popular shows ever, not everyone watched. I mean, Seinfeld is a great show, but not everyone watched it. Friends is a great show, but not everyone watched it. Gunsmoke was a very popular show, but not everyone watched it. Bonanza, not everyone watched it. CSI, whatever
billion,
rip off. Not everyone watches that show, but for some reason, you can't convince these people who run these networks or run these studios that
we're the best.
Hey, we'll just make this movie for this demographic, and everyone in that demographic will come. No, that's not good enough. We have to make it for everyone. But then no one shows up.
I mean, I even see it with the snobs who only watch network TV or only watch the movie channels. It's like, you can make it, if you just use your format really well, it will work. But you that is a good point too. I see half those VPs of the programming, they don't even remember all the cool stuff that made the networks so revolutionary. And NBC and Fox seem to have definitely forgot about all their, like you say, hit sitcoms. They're just like, remember when you were just kind of witty? Can you do that again?
It just seems like people in powerful positions have forgotten how we got here. We got here with, let's say, Star Wars, because we've been talking about that a lot.
Well, it's very revolutionary, but
you get a guy like George Lucas who has a vision and he executes that vision. And yes, he had pulled from different areas, some science fiction, some Western, some serials, all kinds of different stuff. But, he put it in a blender and he made something new. People refuse to do that anymore. Like, no. We have to find something that's a proven formula that works, whether it worked in the past.
Can't acknowledge it.
Get people in with a reboot or something like that, an attack of nostalgia, or what's popular on TV right now, and we'll just do a modified version of that, and people will show up.
A mixture is a good point that you said there, because I also noticed snobs who refuse to acknowledge that there's different genres that are mashed together. Like, Halloween's also as much a mystery slasher as it is a horror movie. Terminator has a horror elements early on before it becomes just action sci-fi. But that is true too. I see so many people are just like, I want it to be this, but I don't want it to be like that. I'm like, well, it kind of has elements of both, whether it's one scene or not. I mean, I see people who refuse to call their comedic show a comedy just because there's social commentary in it. I'm like, so call it a satire.
Yeah.
What's the problem? It's not funny. Well, I don't think you know the meaning of satire. You're not necessarily laughing every time. I mean, Starship Troopers is a satire. You are laughing at it intentionally, or you can be the crowd who doesn't like it, who finds it trashy and is laughing at it unintentionally. It's just like Evil Dead. It works for whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I see so many pitchmen and other producers who are literally, I tell you, I haven't even been at some conferences. They are on a different planet, and you're wondering, how did you get this far? I think you should listen.
Yeah.
You can start.
Yeah. It's like Batman. It's like Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward. Now I watch that show and I can't stop laughing. But when I was 5, 6 years old, when
it was fucking awesome.
we're gonna capture criminals. Like, let's do it. Now I just start laughing because I understand it better now than I did when I was 6.
Man. The closest. The closest.
It's just all what anything really can be anything to anyone.
Yes.
Everyone can't make something for everyone. Like, you can take a show like Batman where adults will be laughing and kids will be serious, but it's the same material. The way people are making it now is they'll make everything for everybody. We'll have a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy, and we'll mix it all together. But then people will be offended by the comedy, or people will be offended by the drama. So we can't make anything. So the show dies. Like,
it really does. But like you say, they try to do too much instead of just kind of convince the producers to leave them alone. But that's true too. I will see people who will give you the stink eye and like, I like what I'm seeing. I'm just laughing because I predicted the plot twists because I've seen too many movies, or that was a little bit of overacting. I mean, my sister and I are pretty connected. We will every once in a while smirk at like an X-Files or SVU episode. You're like, They kind of played the dramatic music a little too early on that one, or that explosion didn't look the best, even though that was good acting. You're gonna get that. It can't be 100% every time, and if you want, you'll find a gaffer or a best boy or an editor who will talk some smack. They're grateful for their position, but you're like, oh, I wish they stopped doing that take. I wish they fired that cinematographer. He doesn't know what he's doing. I got to make him look good. But no, that's true too. I think, again, we've talked about homages, but you keep hitting it on the head. I'm going to steal your thunder here. There is too many of everything here. And instead of just picking a lane, picking a corner, when you want to get around in traffic, you don't drive in both lanes. You go. You drive off the highway and get around and get to wherever you're getting earlier. And like you say, it's just, and some people are really good at experimenting with all elements. Like, they're very diverse. They are the Coppolas, De Palmas, maybe, dare I say, Vanavs of the world. But then there are other ones, like you say, who, I mean, at least when William Friedkin or some of these other guys did something that wasn't working, they still dedicated themselves to it. I mean, just like these infamous, cheesy, fun, goofy movies we've been talking about on this whole episode. I mean, they still would be very laid back, and so what they weren't successful at, you still forgave it because it was just campy fun. And now, I'm losing track of all the clickbait articles. 10 things that are great about this blockbuster movie. 5 things fans on IMDb hate about the new HBO show. And it's like, oh Lord, if I need a clickbait site to tell me what I already think, then I'm already in jeopardy. I can't help myself. I can tell you why I don't like this, or I find this to be war propaganda, or why the action in a movie was cool, but the plot was dodgy and kept getting in the way of the fun. But there's so many people, they can't even do that. Like that. And then, like you say, you get even just the people with an unpopular opinion who are either not good at describing their opinion or do have valid reasons, but again, just kind of like Star Wars encouraged everyone to imitate it, it's also kind of ruined all the fandom. There's so many fans who are stuck up. You're like, what? How can you hate that? It's like, well, listen. He has 5 reasons he gave you. He found the villain weak. He didn't like where the story went. But if you're going to just tell him he's fucked up and needs to go jump off a cliff, then why do you even want to listen to him when you're so stuck up?
I see a lot of shows and movies that are trying to be something that it's not, because the people who are making it don't want it to be what it is. And that's something that the Skinemax movies did correctly, was it never tried to be something that it wasn't.
Their notes from corporate were make it as busty as possible.
Yeah.
But
we are what we are, and we're going to live with it.
I do get that a lot.
Watch, that's fine. Like, you know, there's all these people out there who we have to have everyone in the world love what we're making. And that's just it, and it never worked that way. Even when there were 3 networks, it never worked that way. People, when you had 3 shows that you could watch at 8:00, it never worked that way, where people were watching all of them. People either were watching the other 2 networks or they weren't watching TV at all. Like, it always went that way. And for some reason, people don't want to accept that anymore. Like, let's make a show for everybody. Yeah, but everybody's not going to watch it. Yeah, but why not? Because people aren't interested.
Are picky.
Not everyone will be interested in what you're making. Some people want to watch a drama. Some people want to watch a comedy. Some people
want talk shows and sports.
Some people love sitcoms. Some people want to watch a documentary about some people watch a documentary just for the sake of it being a documentary. You'll see people on Netflix that'll watch a documentary about football one day and then watch a documentary about Kurt Cobain the next day. Some people are just interested in documentaries. So you're probably not going to get that person to watch your medical show who's only interested in seeing stuff that has to do with real life people.
Oh my
but
word.
We're going to make a movie or a TV show that has to do with that so we can bring you in. Yeah, but people aren't interested in that.
Yeah.
No, but we'll make it. Yeah, but then your show will be canceled.
There is definitely
a lot of
it's like an inner and exterior. Yeah, it's like so many people are just saying duly noted to each other, and it's like the creator's not listening, and the suits. I mean, half the time the suits will go away if you just acknowledge them, but don't take their advice.
Yeah.
You know? But at the same time, you really should listen to, like you say, everyone's voice in the room, because it is all valid at the end of the day, like you say. Instead of, it's like, I feel like they're getting a lot of people who predict social media algorithms, and they're getting them into entertainment. I'm like, you're trying to win over all these audiences instead, and then they're also trying to imitate other formulas that have worked. But see, crowds don't want that. They want something similar, but they don't want it to be so apparent that you are just copy and pasting. I know they did it with one of the Star Treks. They're like, let's make this like Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, they want Star Trek. They don't want Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. And yeah, it seems to be a lose-lose. I don't know. Someone went deaf.
You bring up an interesting point, and I haven't thought about it until now. But when on the social media side of things, if social media had been around, let's say 40 years ago, would things be working the same exact way? Like is social media causing people to act this way, or are people acting this way and social media is just following? Like I don't like. Would people have had the same problem in the 60s and 70s with the shows and movies that were being made if social media was around that they have?
That's a really lovely point.
Now.
It's kind of like,
I don't know.
You kind of got this with radio hosts. How much of the audience is based on the crazies that called in versus, like you say, people jumping on random bandwagons on some random video posts they saw? That's a good question. Yeah, it would definitely make you wonder. Yeah, I think with 40 years, we would at least have more things to study, like how much of it was fear mongering versus, popular kid in school hanging out with the dipshits, or it does make you wonder how where that audience would be determined. But at the end of the day, yeah, people just got to think for themselves, and I don't know how much of it is they legit want to think that, or they just want. I mean, I've been invited to other talk shows, and I always look up whether the guy just has hot takes or if they just want to legit shoot the shit and have a fun discussion. Like, I invited you on here because I knew you could at least break a lot of things down, and it would just be fun getting to know you better. Versus, I see so many other people, they just want to kind of just, what pisses you off? I'm like, whoa. Is this an episode of Maury? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not really like that, because I can see the good in everything, or I can kind of see where they were going. Like if something went well, I can see why it went well. If something went bad, I can come up with a couple of logical reasons why that could have went bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I see a really bad movie, now my default just to go to is, well, I'm sure the writer, the producer, the director really had no power here. I'm sure it was somebody higher up said, we got to make it this way or edit this out or recast this or whatever it is. And I basically give a pass. Like if anyone says, oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen, I basically give a pass automatically to it. Like probably that movie that you just saw, the guy who you're blaming isn't really to blame.
Right. Especially with so many producers who have come out and been responsible for recutting movies, like Madam Web's is a good example. Yeah. Everyone's instantly piling up on the director. I'm like, well, I'm looking at her resume. It's pretty cool. So yeah. She gets a get out of jail free card for me. You know, it's not like Ball, like who's kind of a guy who just made a lot of amateur movies with German tax cuts and would beat up anybody who talks shit about him. So it's just like, yeah, I think a lot of people don't, much like they don't know how to speak for themselves. I think that's just it too. They don't know how to stand on their own 2 feet. I can respect a filmmaker who at least talks about what went on a commentary track, but you even see less of that now. I see people give like a cover story and then they come out 5 years later. Yeah, I was forced to say that because I wanted to still work and sell myself out. I'm like, well, come on, just be honest.
Yeah. That's tough when you have to do something that you don't want to do, and then you do it, and you know that you're not the reason why it was done, but you have to take the blame for it. You have to be the good soldier.
You have to be the bigger
even though
man.
It wasn't your call, you still have to act like it was your call, and that's just rough.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
But that's really where my mind goes now. Like I haven't really seen a bad movie because I don't allow my brain. I haven't seen a bad TV show because I don't allow my brain to go there because of all these different things that have nothing to do with the actual show I'm seeing on the screen. It's all the background stuff and the social media stuff and all that kind of mixed into one that has forced me to look at things that way.
You kind of have to. You have to literally turn off all the tabs, even shut your phone off at times. It's like, 10 years from now, people will think this is the best thing since sliced bread. And you'll be like, I thought it was cool back when I was actually on. So yeah, it is kind of one of those things where it's just like, everybody be yourself. I mean, you can take all of this with a grain of salt, especially, I mean, you'll find this funny. I saw a stupid online web series that was on Amazon that had a bunch of sci-fi actors from like Stargate and Babylon 5. And, I had nothing to go on. I had crappy 1 out of 5 star reviews by people who couldn't spell, who were probably 10 years old. And then I had 5-star reviews that were clearly by the filmmakers saying, so-and-so, who you've never heard of, has done a wonderful job.
Right.
So I bit the bullet. I saw it. It had good effects, but it wasn't very funny and entertaining. But you choose where you want the bullets to go off. And if you can make them ricochet and not impact you, like you say,
that's one thing that I've started to do recently is find movies and TV shows that I really, really like, and then go and find people who hate it.
There you go.
Amazon, go on IMDb, go on Rotten Tomatoes, go anywhere where you can get that kind of feedback. And I just want to see, why is this something that I like that so many people hate? Or why is this something that I'm not really a fan of, but people love? Or I love it and people also love it. What is the connection?
You want to actually understand the discrepancies. You want to make sense of it all. I find that Taste Dive is a pretty good one. It'll show you movies and shows that are similar to this film based on keywords and plot elements. And I generally find better options there as opposed to just scrolling through Netflix, waiting to find something to binge.
Netflix is a fascinating place because people watch Netflix the way they used to watch ABC, NBC, and CBS. It's on Netflix, I'll just watch it. Just like, back in the early 50s when there was no remote control. It's too much. It's too tough for me to go and walk to the TV and turn to a different channel. I'll just keep it on CBS or keep it on ABC all the time. So just turn it on and I'm watching ABC. And that's how people watch Netflix is they just, whatever comes on Netflix, they watch it regardless of what it is. It doesn't matter if it's an action movie, a drama, a documentary, a comedy. They just watch it. I always thought that was very fascinating. People
in many ways
like we've added all this technology and we're doing everything differently when it comes to how we're consuming it, but we're still doing everything the exact same way. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
It's like we're in denial. And at the same time, pretty soon people are going to be like, I'm too lazy to get up. I'm like, haven't heard that in 20 years. But I feel like Netflix middle name is Hate Watch.
Yeah.
Like people are just getting up to bitch and post a sarcastic review on Letterboxd. And I don't get that either. I'm like, that is too much trouble for even me. I'm just like,
I can't do the hate watching thing.
Yeah.
I just can't get into it. Like there's so many things that I like or so many things that I haven't seen that I'm really, really interested in seeing that I can't go on social media, find something that everyone hates and then join in the fun. Like I just can't do that.
There you go.
Time.
Yeah. Even with watching Elvira or Joe Bob or Mystery Science Theater late at night, I'm the same kind of way now. I'm like, oh, it really better be funny before I sit through, something that's a deep hurting. It's like, I want to go to bed really feeling just amused as opposed to I'm laughing, but I'm suffering also. The fun of that's kind of
I never understand. And I don't really understand the whole toxic fandom thing. I'll tell you that in a second, but like I never got into hate watching and I never understood toxic fandom. Like I think everyone, even regardless of your opinion, whether you're way out there and you're really extreme or you're, on the home team and you're, cheering on everything they do and they can do no wrong, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. I just never understood why people had a problem. Like I have no problem with anyone saying this is the greatest show ever or this is the worst show ever. Like I never understood people have such a problem. Like if you want to start screaming and yelling about Star Wars, God bless. If you want to start screaming and yelling about Marvel movies, God bless you. Like whether your opinion is negative or positive, either way, I just never understood why people had a problem with people having their, it could be, a Kevin Smith style opinion where he just cheerleads everything. And I really like that guy, but there's a lot of people on the internet who get upset with him because he cheerleads everything. Like every Marvel movie is the greatest thing ever. Every DC movie is the greatest thing ever. Every comic book movie is the greatest thing ever. Every comic book TV show is the greatest thing ever.
I think you kind of answered.
People who hate everything.
I think you kind of answered your own question there because it is fun. And I think then we keep running into people who are good, but only in like a small dose, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But then, like you say, then you're still someone who just gets all really torn up by something. I'm like, really? You're getting torqued off by that? I mean, why did you? It is, but yeah, it is almost kind of like a sports team. I mean, I've seen it even on a few Facebook groups. People will be very amusing. They'll just be like, well, of course you're in this group, so everyone in this group thinks this is the best thing ever. Why would you talk about this or that or this rival of that? But yeah, that's true too. With a sports team that's in cahoots with each other, why would you bring up the other one that they play? It's just. But then again, there's times where you don't have to pick a team. You can say, I like both. I'm rooting for either way. I win because I'm on both teams. But that seems to also be taboo. It's like, I think a lot of it, I think gaming has gotten so over the top. I think it's bred into some of those other fandoms, people who misinterpret stuff. Then you get some of these other guys who it's almost like if you were to come to a carnival, but one person was only coming for one order of the things that are there.
Yeah.
And everyone, like you said earlier, most people are expecting to come to the whole thing, expecting to be blown away and love all the options. It's like, well, if you only eat this thing on that menu, I don't think you need to navigate through all these other things. Save yourself time. You're here for only one of these free items.
Yeah.
I think they're just lost.
I can somewhat understand what's going on because we have a really, really tough crowd to deal with. There's this entire audience of people who are just waiting to be entertained, and people who are hey, show me something new, show me something I haven't seen before. I'll wait. Impress me. Go ahead, impress me.
Impress me.
And
dance.
And for whatever reason, it's just we've fallen into people just not being able to be impressed, losing the ability to just enjoy the show.
And bingo.
Whether it's good or bad. I mean, whether it's good or bad, just taking it for what it is. Like if it's a great show, then enjoy it. It's a great show. If it's a horrible movie or a horrible TV show, just leave it in the past. There's a lot of people who can't do that.
Absolutely.
But I don't blame them. I mean, it's their time.
It is their time. And so that's
some of these mini series they got on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, it's 10 hours. If you dedicate 10 hours of your life and it doesn't go the way you want it, I can't blame you for being mad.
Yeah. I think they just got to get better at letting out their anger. I let it fizzle for 2 hours. And then when I am ready to just kind of give a pros and cons, I let it loose. But then there are other times where it's like, you know what? The raw reaction might be amusing, but I don't know. Maybe it might be even too much trouble because I've thought too much about something I did not enjoy. It's not worthy of my time after all those hours. So I don't know. It really, I think, just comes down to the voice. Like you say, I think Kevin Smith would, if he weren't a filmmaker, he would definitely be a movie critic with amusing reviews.
Sure. I really like him. I think his movies are hilarious. There's a lot of people out there that don't like him or I don't like those movies. Those things aren't those things. But I was actually a fan of him before I was a fan of his movies. So then I was like, this guy's got a really, really loyal fan base. I should probably check out some of his movies. And I just couldn't stop laughing at a lot of these movies that he made. Like Zack and Miri.
That's the closest you got.
What a hilarious movie that is.
Yeah.
I should have seen that. And I liked it so much. I should have seen that in the theater. For some reason, I regret not seeing that in the theater. Like I should have seen that in the theater.
I'm sure it would.
There's a lot of those movies I have out there, but that's one of them where I'm like, this is hilarious. Like I would have gladly paid money to see this at a theater.
Oh, it would have been a hoot.
And it never did. But a hilarious movie. And now I get it. Like I knew he had a loyal fan base, and I was like, I wanna understand this. And then I saw those movies, and I'm like, all right, I get it. This guy.
I mean, if he makes 5 more duds in the next few years, I will still have respect for him as the indie comedy guy. I mean, I feel like so many people, like you say, they don't like to remember the good times. They like to just do the whole, you're only as good as your last movie. I'm like, well, no. If this guy has 20 movies on their resume, you can't just blow them off because of one dud. It doesn't work that way.
And
sometimes
also,
it's not a number.
What happens if that dud leads to 3 good movies?
Bingo.
Like, what if he learns a valuable lesson in that failure that will lead to success down the road? Because there's been a lot of guys who had just horrible streaks of bad movie, flop, no money, and then all of a sudden, off and running.
I can name 10 good
yeah.
Brian De Palma movies, but I guarantee you, he's got more junk on his resume that even he'll fess up to. He's still considered a good filmmaker. So the numbers game really doesn't exist. I see people doing it with even and odd numbers of like a franchise once in a while. I'm like, come on, you're cheating yourself. It's like you say, enjoy what you enjoy, but also realize that a reign of error can still be corrected. I appreciate some of these shows that have decided, hey, that filmmaker didn't know how to describe this controversial subplot. How about we explain it now that we got 5 hours of this season to make sense of it all and right the wrong, instead of further dividing the fan base by not acknowledging this era or just pretending it didn't exist, even though there's someone out there who actually likes it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
This has been a delight. Do you have anything coming up? I know you're still blogging on YouTube doing MMA predictions. Do you have anything else you'd like to promote?
Well, I'll just promote my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube. Just type in my name, Mike Radich, MikeRadich, on YouTube, and you'll find all my stuff. It's MMA stuff mostly. That's what I'm really
these
focusing.
guys' brains. It was really so much fun. In many ways, I even got introduced to some of these guys. I hadn't even heard of them. I don't know how they promote MMAs nowadays. It seems to be often at sports bars if it's not on pay-per-view. What do you recommend to anyone who's trying to do a cool celebrity interview? You have a cool kind of formula down where you kind of just let them loosely open up and then you go in for the kill.
I really don't have much advice. I'm just myself. Just be yourself. I guess that's my advice.
There you go.
I can't really explain it because I just don't think about it. I just do it. So I guess my advice would be just be yourself. I know that's like cliche and not very interesting, and some people won't think that that's a good answer, but that's the answer. Just
how
be
cool
yourself.
That you've gone from phones and now you can do it online now.
Just be yourself. But that's basically what I'm doing right now is the MMA commentary side of things. I kind of moved away from the interviews, but I'll be back to those, of course. But right now it's mostly just commentary about MMA.
Perfect. Dynamite chat here. Love how we were dissecting some other elements of entertainment, man. You're always welcome back. And so much fun, my dude.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up